Joining us is Killah Bee. Sorry to jump in here. Thanks for joining us, Killah Bee.
Hey, what's up?
So how are you faring with the extremely almost record breaking numbers in T5Z, I believe?
Well, so far it's fine, but most of our dudes haven't started undocking yet, and start bridging and all that stuff. So it's gonna be pretty rough. But yeah, like I said already in the channel, I think this fight's gonna be make or break simply by server performance and how well we can load. Obviously, Goons made the right play by setting up very very early, and they now have about 650, almost 700 Titans set up on that grid, as well as a lot of other stuff like supers and dreads and all that. You know, all those ships. And while I'm very confident that we can outnumber them in Titans at the moment, the question is not, it's it doesn't matter if we form more Titans that they do. If we can't get them on grid, if we can't get them to actually be able to play, those Titans are useless, right? And looking at the situation right now, what our dudes are going to have to do is jump onto that grid, load grid, and start fighting. And just based on experience, with that many people in system, the process of jumping in and loading grid is going to take a long, long time. And while we load grid, goons will likely already have the opportunity to start shooting us and killing us, whereas our dudes are going to be stuck in jump tunnel. So I think right now, goons are very much favored in terms of the setup. Obviously, number wise, I think we have an edge, at least looking at the Titan numbers. But yeah, they're already there. They're set up. They're ready to go. Whereas we have to, still jump in and all that stuff. So we'll see how that goes.
Villy
Yeah.
was talking about this, I would say maybe about a month and a half ago. I specifically remember him talking about the same issue, whereas whoever gets their Titan fleet on grid first has a major leg up on the person who's trying to jump in or get their people in secondarily because of the way that the jump tunnel stuff is going to work.
Yeah.
So
Just to quickly interject, a record has been broken already. In T5Z, there is 6,611 pilots in the system. So that is, I believe, the current record for max number of pilots in a single system of EVE Online.
Funny because the previous record we set was in FWST, I think, and it was with both sides bringing forces and fighting. And right now we're looking at 6,600 people in T5Z, as well as those. How many people is it in 4,400 in M2 right now? 6,800 in FWST. Okay, that's fair enough. So we're probably gonna crack it once we start jumping into M2,
Yeah.
assuming the system allows us to jump in that many people.
Yeah. The
Again,
current. Yeah, go
like I
ahead.
said, I think this is gonna be a 100. Like this fight is gonna be very, very much decided based on just how many people can we get on grid, how many people are gonna load, and what's gonna happen. And it always it's unfortunate, but I'm not obviously not blaming anyone for this because there's just I wouldn't expect CCP to be able to keep up with this sort of madness. Having this many people logged in, having this kind of fight going on. I think they're doing their very best. The fact that the servers are holding up as well as they are right now, considering that these are both systems in Delph, right? We have pretty good tie-dye in T5, and the tie-dye in M2 is pretty decent as well right now. So we're gonna see. But yeah, it's always a bit of a shame that when it comes to a fight on this scale, there is only so much influence that the FCs have, and how like strategy and all of that stuff is fine and it's important still, but um unfortunately I don't think it's going to be the deciding factor of this fight. I don't think the side with the better strategy is going to win this one. I think
or
it's
or even the numbers, right? If there's
yeah, no, it's just a matter of how well are we going to load. If we manage, like, let's assume a perfect world where they have infinite server capacities and we manage to get everything loaded on grid from our side, from Pappy, then I think we win. I'm pretty confident that we'd win because we have a pretty significant numbers advantage. But that's not the reality of things, right? The reality is that we're likely not going to get everybody on grid. We're likely going to have a good chunk of our people that are never going to make it on grid. They're going to be stuck in a jump tunnel for the entire thing. And that is going to decide this the outcome of this, I think.
As well as you still have.
Are you vulnerable when you're in the jump tunnel? Sorry.
Sometimes, yeah. So the way it works, the way it was for a lot of people back in Halloween War, there was a fight pre-BTEC R. Everybody remembers BTEC R, but it was actually a huge precursor to BTEC R, which was HGP. And back then, I remember that because I was actually, I jumped into HGP with my dread. I was in a jump tunnel for like 5 or 6 hours. And when I loaded grid after 5 hours, I was back in a pod in the station. So while I was on my screen, I couldn't control my ship. I couldn't actually do anything. But in the game, my ship had loaded on the other side of the Sino. It was killed. I was potted. And I was sitting in the station. I had my clone set to, So you can very much be vulnerable while you're on your screen. You're stuck in jump tunnel. Your ship has already loaded, and you're gonna die. That is a thing.
Well, we'll have to see this historic fight as to if that works or not, because CCP has said that they've been working on trying to get the servers a bit more stable to handle these fights. So hopefully it won't be nearly as bad as it was, 10 years ago. I also remember that being a huge concern for people whenever these big fights were going on, sitting in loading warp tunnels for 5 to 6 hours and not actually being able to see anything that's on grid and participate in what's going on.
Yeah,
We'll see how this is gonna play out.
On the screen at the moment, we are seeing Aerith in the Komodo Titan. So there are 2 Titans on grid, or 2 Komodos rather on grid. Aerith is in one. So someone said in chat that his Komodo cost around 600 billion. Can imagine it was around that. I believe he was one of the first ones to get one. My Komodo was in excess of 420 billion. That was pre-fit as well. So
my bank was worth like 500 bill with the fitting, but the Komodo pilots have the advantage of being able to get estimates in wounds, which are worth much more than the most expensive armor hardeners. So you can get a shield tanked faction titan a lot more expensive than you can get an armor one, which is why I was at a disadvantage with my bank, unfortunately.
You can also get the Komodo to be essentially the tankiest ship in the game with those super blinged fits, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
Yeah,
yes.
he doesn't really have to worry about being primary though at this rate. Like that's a good thing. And like if you are a Levy or an Avatar pilot in this kind of fight, you're living a very comfortable life because you're very unlikely to get primaried at any point in time.
Yeah,
unless you're out of position,
EPC
right?
or something.
Yeah,
exactly.
unless you're out of position.
Out of position or log in from being stuck in these bubbles.
Yeah,
But yeah.
So I think that that's the one time that being a Levy pilot is actually a good thing. Other than that, levies are obviously trash, and all the people buying levies are.
Yikes! Alrighty then.
Ooh, shots fired. Yeah, when I did some theory crafting and when I had mine on grid yesterday, I did have a blinged fit, which I didn't realize how much it was worth because I bought it a long time ago. The last one I bought, the last Eskimos in Ron I bought when I got the Komodo, it was around about 180 to 230 billion in the fit. So
Sully, how much EHP can you get out of a Komodo?
So I had around 125 million then, but I don't believe I had max boosts because I was entering in at a different point. I think with overheat, max skills, and max boosts, I think you could possibly look to touch around 140, 150, which is a staggering amount. Like even a standard A-type Komodo has 96 million hit points in a full tank fit, no purple. And that's a huge amount of hit points. 96 million is with the
That's
resist
just a
profiles
staggering
as well.
amount of hit points.
Yeah, you're looking at with the Galenta
giant damage sponge. How many doomsdays would that be?
Yeah, it'd be about 100 doomsdays.
Wow, that's nuts.
Yeah. So it is it's a very expensive ship to fly, but it does have a statement of it is the tankiest ship here. Like so, we see one from Arif, we see Blighty Kodal as well. But we do see the brave Imperium pilots who have shown up in the Erebuses. Erebus. These were called primary yesterday.
What is the strategic reasoning for calling Erebus and levies?
Ragnaroks.
Rags, sorry, not levies.
They die the easiest.
Yeah, it is purely that they are the easiest to kill. I think a max tank Erebus dual tank with Phenoms can get around about 30 million hit points. A Rag I think can get about 35. And the Avatar you're talking upwards of 60.
Do they trade? Do they have the normal race trades where they get better damage based on, or they get a hull bonus to damage rather than a hull bonus to resistances?
So
that too. That's the majority of the tank difference is coming from, but also the slot layout. You can just look at, like, it's literally just a simple matter of EHP. You just look at the EHP of an Avatar, you look at the EHP of an Erebus, and you just kill Erebus is way easier than you kill Avatars. So that's why you go for them first, because they do the same amount of damage with their Doomstays, right?
they used to have those racial traits where the Avatar used to get 5% armor, the 4% armor, the Leviathan 4% shield. They got removed away when they did the first rebalance, so they all got stripped out. So, Killah, one thing we saw in chat earlier was there was some move ups posted. How many or how much time did you guys have to pre-plan for these move ups to move down here?
We started doing move ups today. I mean, the day before we didn't really have time, so we started. We did one big catch up move up, which we also used for SRP Titans, which most of them were located in drones still, at least for NC Dot. So we had a big move up for reimbursement and catch up Titans today, which I think was about 100 Titans between NC, FRT, and Horde. And those Titans got stuck in Fort Tech-O on the regional gate to Aquarius earlier, so that's why I did a little fleet before I came on the show. I basically formed a fleet and went over to that gate to escort those reinforcements through the regional. For those people not knowing, the route from drones to Delph, you have a bunch of big regional gaps where you have to take a regional gate, basically, an actual Stargate, because going around that gap with Sinos would take a long time. And obviously, those regional gaps are always a very nice opportunity for somebody to set up to drop on your reinforcements, right? Because you're very vulnerable taking a gate. We already saw that happening earlier when I think some Russians and some of FRT tried to take the gate earlier, and they lost a bunch of stuff to goons. Goons were set up very nicely to punish them for it. And so we made sure that prior to the actual time on M2 today, we moved a subcap fleet up there to make sure we get those reinforcements to that gate safely. That's what I did before I came on the show. And now we've got we've got all those reinforcements moved down and everybody ready to roll. We've replaced all the Titans we've lost in the first MTech 2 fight. Speaking for NC Dot, I don't know about the other alliances, but we were set up pretty well to replace them.
Yeah. One other thing we've got as well, question I've got is, so we've seen some rough percentages thrown out of the amount of the Titans that were shown the other day that are stuck on this grid. I don't expect exact numbers, but do you have a rough idea of how many of your capital force you had that is currently trapped, or as someone pre-staged?
We don't have a rough idea. We know very exactly how many there is, but I'm not gonna say
okay. Because I estimate between 40 and 50% of the entire Titans that are fielded from Pappy are somewhere on this grid, whether that be on the Fortizar or in the bubbles.
Yep, that's probably pretty accurate. But that's the thing, right? Like that's why I said earlier that I'm very confident now. Like if we were able to put everything we have on grid, I'm pretty confident we'd win because we already have more than we did now logged into E5Z. And it's minus what's stuck in M2, right? So we have more than we jumped in to the first M2. We have more than that logged into T5Z right now, and we still have all those forces that are logged off in M2 available to us. But problem is, are we going to get all of them in? Unlikely. So we'll see
So
how that goes.
yeah, and that means they would have 50% additional forces than they had 2 days ago. And goons, I think I'm right in saying this, they probably only have maybe what 20% additional forces in terms of in Titans.
Yeah, I mean nobody's really shocked, right? Just look at the raw numbers here. The fact, like the showing that goons are putting up today is very impressive. I think there's no arguing that. I think all the propaganda, all the narrative aside, the numbers and the amount of resistance that goons are putting up in all of this is very impressive, and we expect to outnumber them just by the raw amount of people we have available to our coalition. It would be very awkward if we weren't outnumbering them, right? Like that would just be a very bad
Mhm.
sign of our performance. Unfortunately, the numbers don't really matter in this thing because again, if we can't load those people, or if those people load on grid but never actually manage to play the game because they're stuck in tunnel or something else is going on, then having that numbers advantage is useless. Which is why I think Goons made a very good move setting up, 2 or 3 or 4 hours in advance before the actual timer, to make sure that they have grid control. And now the ball's in our court. Now we have to jump in there. We have to make a move, and they can basically start shooting us the second they see the first Titan load, whereas we have to get in first and then start calling primaries and all that kind of stuff. It's a huge advantage for them to have, I think.
This is really going to put CCP's server load to the test and see how well, whatever
I mean,
updates that they've
honestly,
put in.
like I'll be blunt, I don't think the servers are gonna hold up. No, like I would be very surprised if the servers hold up because looking at local right now, there's 5,000 people. We have in M2. There's 5,000 people in M2, and then we have 6,600 people in T5Z. There's no way we're gonna get those people in. Like I have never seen the servers go that high. I like basing my this judgment, basing it on the performance that we had in FWST. I think we'll be able to see about 8 or 9K people in local. I very hardly doubt the servers will crack the 10K mark. I don't think they'll be able to hold up, but I'm hoping that CCP will prove me wrong and that we can actually play out this fight to some degree, with both sides being able to bring their full potential. However, I'm just a bit pessimistic personally.
Yeah. In chat, we've just got the latest of the local scan and the D-scan. So 4,604 pilots in system in M2 with 663 Titans currently fielded. So Imperium are just about to break the number of Titans they had in the system yesterday, throughout the entire battle.
Killah, if you can say, what is your role going to be in this fight? How are you going to participate in this fight?
Not at all.
Okay.
So I'm not doing anything at all. I don't have time for it at the moment. I'm very sad, and I did this fleet. I got those reinforcements through that gate, and now you know I've done something to aid this fight for my side. Unfortunately, real life has finally caught up with me, so I can't really commit this entire night, for example, to this fight. So I decided not to take any major jobs over because it's pointless for me to, for example, run the Titan fleet or run one of the subcap fleets if I'm going to have to log off 2 hours into the fight or 3 hours into the fight, right? It's just pointless taking over responsibility in the first place then. So I told our campaign commander, I'm not going to be running anything tonight, But I told him, look, I can get those reinforcements through the regional gate for you, and then in my heart, at least I've done something to help us. But that's all I'm gonna do tonight, and then I'm gonna wake up in the morning and see how it's going.
Well, I think that's an important thing to recognize is that there's a lot of little pieces that need to happen in order to make these fights work. Like, for example, goons. I'm sure they had little skirmishes in order to try to get all of these anchorable bubbles and their wall of bubbles in order to protect their flank of the Keep Star. And then, of course, what you just described in order to get your reinforcing fleets to where they need to be. So, I think that that's well deserving of respect across the board. Everyone is going to obviously remember these fights as the big fights, but there's always going to be people in the background that are doing the little things in order to make them happen.
Oh
And
yeah, I mean 100%. That's definitely true. Also, I'm not really, I think that I'm not worried about my position in Eve's history anymore, right? So I don't feel that bad about not being able to participate in a fight like that. I've had so many fights in my Eve career that were like the huge, they were a huge deal, and again, I would have liked to commit a lot of time into this fight. I would have liked to, throw everything I have into it and participate and be able to say, look, I did this and that for this fight. But at the end of the day, it's just, I can't do that stuff anymore. I'm not 16 anymore like I was back in World War B or whatever. So I just have to set my priorities right. And, now I'm just going to enjoy, sit here with you guys, talk about the fight a little bit, and then when I go to bed and I wake up, the fight's still going to be going on when I wake up. I can just join my dudes on comms, listen in on how it's going, and just kind of enjoy it from a um, outside perspective.
so I'm getting some reports come through that Pappy forces have decided to undock in T5. So
Yep.
this could be very soon that we see something happen.
What's the timer left on the Keep Star?
It's 1 hour and 10 minutes roughly. Sorry, 2 hours. I was looking at the iHub.
Yeah,
The iHub is 1 hour and 10 minutes.
Yeah,
Why
iHub is
would
1
they be
hour and 10.
undocking for so early, do you think?
Part of me is thinking as well, the reinforcement timer is not based on tie-dye, and like Killah Bee stated earlier, there is a large amount of people that need to try and enter this system. I've seen some pictures of people who have had the timeout message from Eve of the 29 minutes or 30-minute call-out wait. So I think it won't be too long until they start trying to enter system, just because of the sheer number of pilots that are here.
Okay, so is there a possibility that Pappy forces may try to jump into system like even now, or 20, 30 minutes from now, in order to start loading grid and getting everybody in, because it's going to take so long, just so that they can have forces on field to contest the Keep Star timer?
It's a tricky one, because when they try and enter system, like they've undocked in, I believe it's close to 4,000 people have just undocked. So T5 is at maximum tie-dye. So I think they're going to try and enter system soon, but I think that's merely just because of the time it will take for them to load grid and things, like you say.
Is it a surprise to Pappy that goons formed up for this? Because I think there was a lot of people, including myself, that speculated that they would blue ball this fight because of the fact that they no longer had the ability to dock up and be safe after the fight if it went wrong.
I wasn't really surprised to us. Their entire narrative that they've been pushing lately has been around, since the start of the war. The narrative has basically been, come fight us on our Keep Stars. We're gonna make you pay for it, and that's what they're doing. So standing down and not forming up for this would have been questionable for them moral wise, I think. And honestly, they're in a very good position to extract a very hefty price here for this Keepstar. I mean, the Keepstar,
Mhm.
if we do load grid, if we do manage to put DPS on it, the Keepstar is gonna die. There's no real question about that. Assuming the server doesn't crash. If the server does crash, so Keepstar is likely gonna repair. But the Keepstar, like, when we're talking 10 plus trillion lost on both sides, what is a Keepstar, right? The strategic value of this Keepstar is insignificant, so it's mostly about making us pay. So I think it's not a big surprise.
Why
And
is
I
this
think
keep star insignificant?
because
If
the
you
system has no strategic relevance,
all right,
it's just not a relevant Keepstar. The fact that the fight happened over this was rather random. We weren't expecting the big fight, the big, BTEC kind of fight, or now I guess we should say the big M2 fight to happen over this Keepstar. We were
and it,
expecting this.
and it didn't sound like, from Goon's side, that it was something that they were thinking that they were definitely going to fight either. It was just they saw that the numbers were relatively even, and they had an advantage of being on this keep star, so they took it. So yeah, it's kind
Yep.
of
They're very opportunistic. Can I also just say how much I hate the fact that people are calling this Pew Pew in M2? Like, this is just,
yeah, that's a
bro.
little bit of a cringe name to call it, but I mean, if that's what people want to call it, then so be it.
I read that the other day when I think it was CCP Orca or something who tweeted about it, and I just said, look, a fight on this scale, it's gonna be all over the media and everything, right? Like, can we please not give it such a cutesy weird name? Can we just give it a proper name? Because honestly, like, I don't know, man, this isn't fucking TikTok or something. Like, I don't know. Anyways, I got sidetracked there.
no, I totally agree. I liked Talking Stations put their title up, a Clash of Titans. It's generic, but it's pretty descriptive of what happens.
It's fine, at the end of the day, whatever the majority of people are gonna call this fight, it's gonna be its name. But I just hate Pew Pew and M2, man. Honestly, it's yeah. Hey, anyways, yeah, we'll see, man. Like, now we've got most of our dudes undocked in T5. It's a very crowded Keepstar undock. Let me say that. And we'll see how well we can get on grid. I see a bunch of our subcap fleets warping to Titans in T5 right now, so looks like we're getting ready to bridge in with the subs as well. And then we'll see what the servers do.
Yeah. So for those in the stream that don't know, I am currently joining up into these fleets. I do have my Titan in M2 somewhere. So if I do disappear, it's because I am organising and getting things into place. Even so, one thing I would note is even the chat server in T5Z is currently struggling because I just think the sheer number of pilots in the system.
Okay, I'm just gonna sign on my Titan in there. Probably gonna get DD'd off the grid and just go to sleep. That's my goal for tonight.
So
Maybe.
you are going in there with your ship.
Yeah, I'm probably gonna right-click, jump to the Sino, and then close the client and go to sleep. Because by the time I load, I'll probably just, want to be sleeping. So I'll just put my Titan on that grid, and then go to bed. And hopefully, I can soak 30 Doomsdays or something for someone else. Maybe I could buy somebody time.
Very honorable of you, Killah.
I mean, you could just get a Komodo, jump in, and then just wait for downtime because they ain't gonna attack you till then.
Yeah, I mean there's two alternatives here, right? Like, either I die very quickly, or I don't die because I just tanked, or I lived the downtime, right? How long is it until downtime? It's 11 hours now, or 10:30, I think. Yeah, it's 10 hours 30 until downtime. Actually, 11 hours 30 until downtime. So we'll see.
Yeah. So someone in chat, let me just find your name. Malcor Rex, he's regular on the channel, so thank you very much. But he's done a local scan of the three main systems and there is 1,500 pilots. Sorry, 15,000 pilots. 15434 over the three systems. 5,500 Goon Swarm, 1,948 Test, and 1,900 Pandemic Horde are the top three.
Yeah, that's it's pretty impressive. 400 PL pilots as well, 975 NC pilots. Very happy with that. I would like to see NC dot correct the 1,000 character mark. Maybe we can pull that off. But not bad. That's like a third of our alliance in terms of characters.
So here we can see the Pappy forces are beginning to enter system. Local is about to break 5,000. Let's put on an overview. That's probably not going to do my client any favors.
Whole
So
bunch of subs getting signed in. For those of you who can't
Oh
see
shit!
that,
Did we actually decide? Oh yeah. So it looks like we decided to go with the subs onto the Fortizar first. I think that's a bit of an unfortunate choice because I think our priority should be to get Titans on that grid ASAP. Because bringing those subs in is just going to reduce the odds of our caps actually loading the grid. So I don't necessarily agree with the decision to get subcap fleets in there. I'm not entirely sure what the purpose of them is to begin with. But
soak shots.
what are they running? What is it they have there? Is that a Munin fleet or something else?
it looks like cruiser-sized hulls, right? So it's likely going to be Eagles or Eagles and Munins, probably. Pretty sure Horde is in Eagles, and if NC is Bridge, we're probably in Munins.
Are there some faxes with them?
Probably some Jackdaws there as well. Yeah, I don't know why we brought in that many subfleets, to be honest. That makes little sense to me.
Do you guys care about this iHub at all in in M2, or is it mostly just it doesn't really matter? It's not really a strategic system.
It'd be great to kill it just for this fight because it'd remove all of those jammer shenanigans from the game, basically, right? It'd be great to remove it, but I think the likelihood of us pulling off an Entosis event during this fight is very low.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
It seems as well, though, the jammers aren't of major concern because although the Imperium have them, it seems they cannot turn them on.
Yeah, it seems more like they have those 3 jammers to like stop, because you can only have 3 per system, right? It's just to stop like Horde or someone from putting one
Yeah,
up of their own.
exactly. It's to block ours, basically.
If we do see server instability because of the amount of people trying to get into the system, I mean, you'd expect goons also to have unstable clients, so it could theoretically level
No,
the playing field. You don't think so?
it
Well,
doesn't
goons have
because
an
they're
advantage,
already
right?
here. Yeah,
Yeah,
they're already on grid. They're already sitting there.
Yeah, unfortunately, the advantage is to the home field. However, if it reaches the point where the node it fails and crashes, then everyone's gone. It's not feasible for a node crash to dump half. It's normally most of them will go. I think one node crash had a 75% drop.
Well, I think Goonswarm also have like a huge advantage if the node dies and it restarts, right? Because like random Goon Titans can just start logging in straight away because as soon as they land, they'll just be tethered. Whereas like the Pappy guys will not have tether if they're on the Keepstar grid fighting. So
Unless they're in the bubble, which could be a positive, I guess, of the bubble.
Also, one thing we noticed in YTech 2 when Node crashed over there, or actually it was not YTech 2, was one of the other Fountain Keep stars.
KVN.
Yeah, KVN. After that, when that node crashed and the keeps are repaired, our ships actually didn't load where they DC'd. So we had our fleet spawn all over system instead of in the position where they were in when the node crashed. And this is also something that won't affect the defenders because they're sitting on the citadel. At least not to a horrible degree. Whereas with us, if like our Titans, like let's say the node crashes and we log back in, and then our Titans are spread out all across system, that would be pretty awful.
Looks like some of these cruisers have started moving now, so some of them are out of their jump tunnel.
I had someone in chat mention if the node was to crash, would it result in this Keepstar being saved? Now,
Yes.
I think but I don't think it would at the moment because of the timer. It still has
Oh,
one
right
hour and
now,
43.
yeah. Well, yeah, but an hour 40, like that's not that long. Imagine 8,000 people trying to log back in after the node crashed. But yeah,
Hmm.
right now with the timer still being that long, there is a decent chance we'd be able to log back in before the timer comes out. But if the node crashes anywhere closer to the actual timer, the thing is just gonna repair, right? Because one thing to keep in mind, something that a lot of people don't know is that anything related to citadels, anything related to fuzzies off is not affected by tie-dye. So the timers will tick at normal speed, even if the node is going at 1%. So yeah, if you crash with the node running at 1% speed, the thing is just repairing insanely fast. Yeah, also tie-dye is capped at 10% in game in the little circle in the top left, but it's not actually capped at 10%. 10%
Yeah.
tie-dye is actually pretty playable compared to what the lag in this kind of engagement is going to be, or not the lag, the tie-dye, I should say. We've done some, we've done some testing on the actual tie-dye in big fights, and it's far lower than 10%.
We can see there the actual time dilation factor is only at 28%. So the server, even with 5,000 pilots in system, is actually not being maxed out.
Yeah, but that's just with people tethered, right? There's not really like many calls going on right now. It's like it's not like people are shooting and repping and things.
Yeah, there's no fighting at all right now. Everybody's just kind of sitting, and yeah, once everybody's sort of loaded and load, like, so from our experience, the worst server loads are caused by jumping a lot of people in and out of system always causes a lot of tie-dye. And then anything that's like AoE damage, like smart bombs, which was what crashed the KVN node, right? Was the smart bombing run. And things like that are really bad for tie-dye. And fighters are horrific, so we'll see. But right now we're looking at what, 20% tie-dye, something like that, and there's no fighting going on. So as soon as those ships start shooting, I think we'll see. But obviously, CCP is also under a lot of pressure in a fight like this because everybody's looking at this, right? Everybody's watching this, and uh, the server crash. It's always a bit of a sucky end to a story like this, for their PR purposes as well. When there was this huge engagement that could have been this biggest battle ever, but unfortunately the servers didn't hold up. It's always a bit which is why I really think that we're gonna probably see the best server performance we've ever seen today. Let's just hope it's enough.
Yeah, it's the fact that it's got this many layers of fighting, but yeah, it will be once the full start is really where the servers will be tested, as well as we was able to see fighters on grid yesterday, doing their things. So it'll be interesting to see if that's the same number that happens here. If fighters get launched, will that then initiate node crash like historical times have? But I do not hope CCP is able to at least get good data so that if there is a crash, they know a reason for it and they can do some brilliant work as they have been on trying to make sure that these crashes are getting rarer and rarer. We do have some pictures coming in from Razorian. I will load them up on stream shortly. I'm just moving something into a position. So let's try and see if I can get these windows to capture nice and easily for people.
So Goonstorm have had a hick sort of like in the middle of the keep star where the icon is, with a hick bubble up for like the last half an hour. Is there like a strategic reason for that other than just like kill some like idiots that walk to the keep star range or something?
It's to pull them in, so the bubble will kind of drag them into center, so it will be harder for them. So up on stream at the moment, here we have some of Razorian's pictures. Let's get a link to his Flickr.
Yeah, those bubbles work surprisingly well, Satonia. In KVN, we've had a bunch of people warp into those because you try to perch up during the fight. You try to perch up to one of your friendly citadels and warp back down to your fleet. You get caught if you're not careful, right? You land in the middle of the keepstein, get killed. It is a pretty cost-effective strategy considering you just have to place it out there with a hick that has this bubble up 24/7, and you're gonna cause some displacement and some annoyance for the attackers with that. So it's a pretty good thing to do.
I'm surprised that Goons hasn't bubble wrapped the Keepstar uh, like you guys did back in the previous fights.
Well, I assume there's no need to, right? Because like if they're gonna kill it, they're gonna kill it with Titans anyway. Like the bubble wrap thing is more to stop uh people using ravens and things.
The fuck was that?
I think Matterall fat fingered something.
Yeah, Mel did accidentally press the button.
Oh,
And
hey, Elise.
How's it going, guys?
but how are you finding it so far, Elise?
I'm ready to go. I'm ready for this to kick off. I have no idea how this is going to play out, but I'm very excited. These are the most numbers we've ever seen for anything in Eve ever, uh, and that's just before the fighting even starts. Before the armies are on field with each other, they're going to be separated by a few thousand kilometers. And then they're going to be separated by a few hundred kilometers, and then they're going to shoot each other until one side's dead. And I can't wait. I'm here for it.
Thank you, Conroy Kane, for the subscription.
Thank you very much. Thank you for everyone that has subscribed. Apologies if we have missed it. Yeah, I've just managed to somehow lose yet another station camera, so I'll be sorting him out as well. I've still, thanks to the generous test pilot, was able to get me an interceptor. I was able to reship one of them, but now I have to attempt to find a ship for this guy.
Is that a Sino inhibitor that's getting anchored in that middle of that bubble mass?
Yeah, so those circles and crosses are various different Sino inhibs. This is they have a range that will completely prevent the Sinos. So if Pappy are planning to bring in their Titans where their logged off Titans were, then it would those would be the hindrance, and they would have to be removed before that is possible.
The way that the Imperium has set up their Titans in this giant pancake sort of thing, which by the way looks really delicious, I think it's going to be very rough for us to try to jump in that close. I think the likelihood of us jumping in our Titans on the spot of where our old ones logged off is very low, because that would open us up to all kinds of AoE doomsday shenanigans. So we'll see what Pappy decides to do here. But they definitely set up their Titans in a in a position where they can AoE DD up and down quite easily without hitting many of their own forces, which is a pretty nice setup.
Yeah, the Imperium did get here quite early, which is good for them. A little bit uncharacteristic of them, but given how excited they were from the last fight, it makes perfect sense. They want to like seize as much of the momentum as they could. Both sides claiming victory from the last fight. They definitely want to have the final word here. So they got in local nice and early, got a nice little Titan formation going in. Makes it very hard for the Pappy forces, as Killah Bee mentioned, to go in where they were last time, right? And they've got a very sizable supercap fleet logged off in those bubbles. But they currently also have a very, very sizable supercap fleet in T5Z ready to come in. So, like, we're not even counting the ones that are stuck in the bubbles down there.
Would it even make strategic sense for them to sino in super capitals? From what you guys are saying, and people being in warp tunnels uh, for as long as they would be, on top of the fact that the fighters would be essentially just adding to the time to the tie dye. Would it even make sense for them to, sino in super capitals or even lock in their super capitals?
We have to, right? What we saw at the towards the end of the last M2 engagement 2 days ago was that the fighter bombers, the short range fighter bombers of super carriers. I mean, we didn't really see that. We knew that already, but we saw it happening in on the server for the first time. They do massive DPS. The biggest DPS machine by far in the game right now is a super carrier with short range fighter bombers applying on something like a Titan or a Dread, right? The last couple hours of the fight, we had a pretty sizable advantage at the start of the M2 engagement in terms of Titans killed. I think Pappy was ahead 10 Titans for most of the fight in terms of Titans killed. But then towards the end of it, the Imperium started using their short range fighter bombers on our Titans, and they were melting them. And they basically turned around the whole thing. And not only did they close that 10 Titan gap, they also got out with 8 ahead in the end or something like that, or 4. So those those super carriers and those fighters, they matter a lot. They
So
are
they do
huge.
serve a strategic value in
Yes,
this engagement. Okay.
with the way that the tanking and the cap of fighters and everything works nowadays, super carrier fighters are just absolutely shredding Titans.
So I just had a message, the message in Twitch chat from ISD Showgoal with the infinite jump tunnels. He said disabling the tactical overlay before jumping into the system can help, as having the tactical overlay on can cause the infinite jump tunnel. It's a very good shout for people to have them off. I in fact do have that normally on myself, so I'm just going to ensure that I have that switched off on most of my characters.
Yeah, there's been a lot of server performance increases and like little fixes like that over the last 12 months, 18 months even, especially like most notably the 64-bit client. But so many of these little things add up to what we saw in the last M2 fight, which was insanely good server performance. Obviously, because we're EVE players and we just shattered every single record imaginable, we want to shatter the rest of them as well. So now there's, I think, 10,000 people ready to come into one system with super carriers, with Titans, with dreads, with carriers, with facts, just absolutely the entire kitchen sink. Both these groups want to throw everything they have at this. So it's going to be curious to see how the server that we've been, just absolutely abusing over the last few months, how it holds up to this level of fight.
Yep, we're going to be breaking pretty much every record there is with this. Probably by far the most Titans on grid ever. Likely, if the fight does kick off, the most Titans killed ever. We're going to break our own record from 2 days ago with that, very likely too. And then obviously most pilots and probably most E value killed as well. I'm sure that there's a whole bunch of records we can award ourselves with after this fight if it happens.
Yeah, I'm going to be really curious to see like exactly when it's going to start kicking off. I know about 30, 40 minutes ago, some of the subcap fleets started to bridge into M2 from T5. So that's going to take a little bit while for people to get into place. They're sinoing in on the Fortizar, so then they're going to have to go and position themselves around this Imperium pancake and start the fighting that way. And then it's a matter of where are these caps going to come in and when are the caps going to come in, right? You probably don't want to sino them in all at the same spot because there are some very inventive tactics that can, if not kill them, then like hobble them quite quickly before they can even load, before they can get armor links up. But if you give the Imperium a lot of room to maneuver, like if you sino in on the Fortizar with all of your supers, the Imperium subcat fleet can drop bubbles and sort of interdict the capitals as they try and move on to the Keepstar grid. So that's going to be the decision that Pappy have to come up with. Obviously, they've already come up with that. We just have to wait and see as observers how it's going to happen and where it's going to happen.
Here's an interesting question. Do you think recloners are going to be used in this fight?
Nope.
Why not?
I don't think anyone really has a lot of experience with them. Number one. Number two, I don't think the scale actually works too well for a fight like this. We're talking 10,000 people. I don't think these supers are going to have like 15 ravens in them or whatever. And I'm sure there's also a component of uncertainty that people just aren't going to want to do. It's much easier to just bridge people back into the fight, right? The jammer is not going to be up. There's going to be ample room to move people in as like normally. I think the recloners are more meant for smaller scale fights rather than ones of this scale.
What would be considered a small scale fight?
I mean, I think if you have like less than 100 people, the recloner might make sense, or the recloner might provide a lot of value.
For those of you who don't know what we're talking about, CCP introduced a module for super cap, or sorry, I'm tongue twisted here. Super carriers. Yeah, thank you. Not super capitals. So they have super carriers. And it allows you to essentially tie your clone back to that particular super carrier and allows you to get inside of a ship automatically coming out of the super carrier once you die. So it could be used to reinforce a subcapital fleet. But yeah, so.
Yeah. In this case, it's probably better just to die, go back to your respective home station, pick the ship that you want, that your fleet needs the most, and get on a Titan and wait for a bridge. So I think that's probably what's going to happen. Also, Carneros had mentioned this before, when battleships also now have a frigate escape bay. So if your battleship dies and you've put a frigate into your battleship, you don't eject in a pod anymore. You eject in the frigate of your choice, which is a really cool thing, a nice little buff to battleships that happened a few months ago. But in fights of this scale, uh, the transition phase from getting into your battleship and out of your battleship and into your frigate can feel painfully slow. And oftentimes you die before you even materialize in the frigate. I wouldn't be surprised if the recloners have a similar effect in obviously in scales like this. That's not to say that the modules aren't useful or anything like that. I can't wait for Eve players to kind of get their hands on it. But first, we just have to kill another 300 or 400 Titans. First things first.
Yeah, so that leads me on to: do you have a prediction, Elise and everyone else? Do you have a prediction of the number of Titans we'll see die?
Thanks to Real Humble and Agent Scully for your Twitch Prime subscriptions. Really appreciate your Prime subs, guys. If you have Prime subs, if you have Amazon Prime, if you log in or connect your accounts from Amazon Prime to Twitch, but allows you to give a free sub. Obviously, you can give your sub to whoever you want, but we would greatly appreciate extra Twitch Prime subs. It really helps out the channel, guys.
I mean, in terms of dead Titans, last time we had 250 thereabouts, right? 250, 260. There are, what, 50% more Titans already? And that's not even including the ones that are logged off. So I don't know. It's going to be entirely dependent on how the server responds, right? That's going to be the limiting factor here. It's not the tank of the Titans or the facts or how doomsdays are coordinated. It's going to be how the server can withstand and stand up to the just insane barrage we're about to put it through. And I wouldn't be surprised if, unlike the last M2 fight, which was like doomsdays straight from the start and the subcaps kind of doing nothing, I wouldn't be surprised if that is completely flipped in this one. I I plan to see a lot of subcap fighting going on at the start to keep the keep star paused and start whittling it down before the Titans actually come in and start doing the damage. Could be horribly wrong on this one, but both groups have a massive massive subcap fleet. So I'm kind of expecting to see that instead of just Titan brawl death at the start. But with these two groups, and there's so much animosity now between these two groups, having both claimed victory in the last M2, that I think they're just out for blood too. So you can make the case that throw strategy out the window, throw everything out the window. These groups just want to kill each other in the biggest ships imaginable.
Thank you to Lipsifu, White Force, and Darken Lord for your Twitch Prime subs.
In the previous fight, I think someone mentioned that we had Titans dying about once every 3 minutes on both sides, right? So if we have a similar rate, we're seeing like about 20 Titans dead every hour.
Yeah, it's with the Titans on field currently, it's about the number that Imperium had, and it was I think it was Elise that tracked it and was counting the Vex as well. It was about one every 3 minutes.